Hi guys, it's not Friday. Yeah, not looking forward to my punishment, but hey, that is what you get for having a freak out over coursework and then realising that actually it's fine and you just kind of were freaking out over nothing. I have now sort of finished like a first draft. It's too long, but I have a few days now to cut it down and do all the formatting, referencing and everything. Other stuff this week, work-wise, I had a Middle English class on Troilus and Crusade. Saturday, I did a half-hour set at Rag Ball, which RAG stands for Raise and Give, so it's basically a ball that raises money for charity, which was really cool, and I got paid £40 to do it, which was pretty awesome, and then I got to hang around a little bit and see a couple of other people. Thursday, myself and my friend we were asked to sing at Thanksgiving dinner. The Thanksgiving dinner is put on by college every year. Because me and my friend were singing, we got to go to the dinner for free, which was cool. And then last night I did a gig at the Yule Ball with Soup, which is just what it sounds like. Basically it's a Harry Potter themed ball. Had a little bit of a dance afterwards, which was super fun. See what I did there? Super fun. This right here is the face of a witty person. So, as I said before, this week my plan was to explain to you guys a bit about how the English course is actually structured. I wasn't able to find someone from the year below to explain the course, but I found the specifications online. So I'll just explain how my course works and then just explain the differences between mine and how it is now, if you are someone who's thinking of applying now, because obviously that's going to be more useful. When I was in first year, back in the day, we had to study for 4 papers, which we took 4 exams for at the end of the year for mods, which are basically just exams that you do at the end of your first year. They don't count towards your degree at all, you pretty much just have to pass them. We had one paper called Introduction to Literary Studies, which was very like theoretical, different, like looking at different schools of literary criticism. I was sat as an exam at the end of the year in which you had to write, pretty sure it was 3 essays in 3 hours, which was the standard for our Victorian and modernism papers as well, which, as they sound, were just papers on Victorian literature and modernism. And our other paper was an Old English paper. The exam is slightly different for that because you write 2 essays. The other thing that you do is a commentary, which is basically where you'll get a passage from one of 4 Old English set texts, and you have to be able to recognise what's going on in the passage, and then write a commentary on kind of like stylistic and language features and stuff like that. So after first year, you've got second and third year to cover 8 papers, which count towards your finals degree. Paper 1 is what I did in Trinity term of my second year, Trinity term being the 3rd term. It's an English language paper, so it's the only language specific paper that we do. Basically got a lot of, basically you have to end up with writing 2 essays that you submit for coursework that are 2,500 words each. One of them is like a commentary, so like a language commentary on a piece of text that you choose yourself, and one of them will be a more kind of theoretical type essay, and the questions will be released and then you'll have about 2.5 weeks. I did an essay that looked at how literary representations of accent and dialect had changed between sort of Victorian period and modern day. For my commentary, I looked at a small part of the transcript for the Steubenville rape crisis, which if you don't know about it, there's stuff on YouTube and everything, but essentially I was comparing a bit of a transcript of how CNN presented the news case with a copy of the law on rape in Ohio where the incident happened, and I was kind of looking at legalistic and journalistic discourse, how, you know, language and stuff is manipulated and used as means of power and control and all this kind of thing. Paper 2 is the Shakespeare paper, which will be a 3-hour exam at the end of my 3rd year, in which I have to write 3 essays on Shakespeare. Then papers 3, 4, 5 and 6 are basically just time periods, and in the same way as the Shakespeare paper, for each of those you will sit a 3-hour exam where you have to write 3 essays on literature from that period and that period alone. The course here is like really historical, which I really enjoy, but obviously it's not for everyone. Paper 3 is basically a Middle English paper which goes from 1100 to 1509. Then paper 4 is kind of Renaissance, but excluding Shakespeare, because you can't write on Shakespeare because there's a whole other paper for Shakespeare, so that goes from 1509 to 1642. Then paper 5, 1642 to 1740, and paper 6 is literature from 1740 to 1832. I guess kind of the idea is that by the end of your degree you will have studied literature from every historical period of kind of English literature, producing history from Anglo-Saxons right up until modernism, which is pretty cool. And papers 7 and 8 are coursework papers. Paper 7 is what I'm doing at the moment, which is the special author topic, where I have to write 6,000 words on literature produced by a single author. There's a list of authors that you're allowed to write on that gets released at sort of the end of second year, and then you make your selection, tell your tutors, and then they match you up with a tutor who will kind of supervise you. Some questions get released, and then you have 3 weeks to produce a 6,000 word extended essay. Special topic paper, you can either do a centrally taught topic. The list of centrally taught topics gets released by the English faculty again at the end of second year. You can basically come up with a topic yourself that you want to write on. It can literally be anything at all, and you submit it to your tutors, and if it's okay then they'll match you up again with someone who can supervise you. The only thing I forgot to mention is that paper 3, the Middle English paper, is actually slightly different exam-wise, because you, again, as with the Old English paper, will be doing commentary as well as essays, and it's actually sat in 2 exams. Lecture-wise for English, and this goes for people on the new course as well, there are no compulsory lectures, although when I was in first year we did have 1 compulsory lecture a week for our Introduction to Literary Studies paper, but other than that, basically the lecture timetable will be released at the beginning of each term, and it's basically up to you to pick and choose the lectures that you go to. Because everything is very college-based for English, as in you'll usually have most of your tutorials and classes with tutors and other English students in your college. At least that's how it works at Mansfield. The individual texts you study will kind of be up to the tutor's sort of personal preferences, because whilst the modules, the time periods for literature are the same for everyone in every college, the individual texts are obviously never specified, so it just depends on what your tutor wants to teach you or what you are interested in. So there can't really be any compulsory lectures because no 2 people are going to be studying the same texts at any one time, which I quite like, because it kind of means that even though it seems like a very rigid course in the way it's structured with these kind of very specific time periods, there is, I think anyway, it is quite flexible in terms of, you know, if there are specific texts and authors you're interested in, you can ask to do those. There's no set texts. Tutorials and classes wise, you usually have a couple a week, because you'll usually be doing a couple of papers at the same time every term. So for example, this term I would usually have a tutorial for paper 7 and either a tutorial or a class for paper 6 every week. Usually for any tutorial I'll have to have submitted an essay previously that is usually between 2,000 to 2,500 words. If it's a class, usually we just have to do some reading, and maybe sometimes we'll be asked to do a presentation on something to the other people in the class. At the end of your first year, you can either choose to carry on with course 1, which is the course that I've outlined in this video because it's what I do, or you can choose to go for course 2, which focuses on medieval literature solely. If you want to know more about how it's structured and everything, I can get someone to come and do one of these videos with me next time and explain how it works. I thought I would just quickly explain to you the differences between the new English course and the one that I've explained that I've just done. Basically, they've just shifted the time boundaries a bit. That's the main difference. The other difference is, so the language paper that I did my coursework in last term has now replaced the theoretical kind of module that I did in my first year. So there is now no specific language paper for final honours schools. So in your first year, on the new course, you'll do an introduction to language and literature where you have to submit kind of language type coursework like what I did, but obviously it doesn't count towards your finals degree because it's first year work. And then you still do Victorian to Modernism, and then they've changed the Old English paper to also include some Middle English. And then basically after that, the other time periods are quite standard, just that the time boundaries have shifted a little bit, and the Shakespeare paper is now submitted as coursework instead of as an exam, so it's like your 3 best tutorial essays are submitted for marking. Whereas we do Middle English, there is now a paper that goes from 1350 to 1550, there's a paper from 1550 to 1660, a paper from 1660 to 1760, and a paper from 1760 to 1830. Those are your exam papers. 3 hours, 3 questions, pretty standard. And instead of special author and special topic, you do 1 special options coursework paper and 1 dissertation. So the special options one is a bit like our special topic. You get to choose from a list of 22 different topics supplied by the faculty, and like they're not author or period or subject based or anything, and you have to write 6,000 words. For dissertation, you can pretty much, from what I get of it anyway, you can pretty much choose whatever you want to do for that, and you have to write 8,000 words. So overall, you submit the same amount of words in coursework terms as I do on mine. I was going to answer everyone's subject related questions, but I feel like this video is already going to be quite long, so I'm going to say keep the questions coming, and I'm planning to do a video next week talking about interviews and my interview experiences and everything, so I can also keep that subject related, answer your subject questions, and because I did have a couple of questions about interviews as well, so I think that will tie in better than me trying to squash it all in now. Also, sorry if this video is a bit too long, but I kind of thought I'm being punished anyway, so I'm kind of just gonna slightly ignore the 5-minute rule for this week, also because I wanted to make sure I was explaining everything properly. Hopefully this video hasn't been too confusing. I know it's just been more of a course outline than explaining what it's actually like to do English, but I thought that would be a useful basis to start, and then next week I'll actually properly answer your questions and it will be a bit more personal. So, yeah. Anyway, I am now going to go and have dinner and get ready for a bop, so that will be fun, I hope, and I will see you all next week. Bye!